Well, the Trump administration is ratcheting up the pressure on Venezuela. U.S. forces seized a second Venezuelan oil tanker over the weekend and are now actively pursuing a third. This as lawmakers are demanding the Department of Justice explain why all of the files related to convicted sex offender Jeffrey Epstein were not released by last Friday's deadline. We've got CBS's Jarred Hill following both of these big stories for us. Jarred, good morning. First off, let's talk about this tanker that the U.S. is pursuing. What do we know about that?
So, Michael, the Trump administration says that they're going after a so-called shadow fleet, flying a false flag that's part of a Venezuelan effort to evade sanctions. As the pressure campaign on Venezuela's government intensifies, there are bipartisan questions about the end goal. Off the coast of Venezuela, the U.S. Coast Guard is now in active pursuit of a third oil tanker. This after seizing what the White House calls a second sanctioned vessel early Saturday.
This is another ship that was basically operating in the black market.
Venezuela called the operation a serious act of piracy. The White House accuses both vessels of evading sanctions as it ramps up its pressure campaign on dictator Nicolas Maduro. It follows the seizure nearly 2 weeks ago of another oil tanker, the Skipper. Last week, the president announced a full blockade of sanctioned vessels traveling in and out of Venezuela.
Not going to let anybody going through that shouldn't be going through.
Meanwhile, lawmakers are raising questions about the Justice Department's release of files linked to well-connected convicted sex offender Jeffrey Epstein. Starting Friday, the DOJ uploaded thousands of heavily redacted records to its website, including photos and contact lists. But over the weekend, more than a dozen files were removed without explanation. A CBS News review found that includes an image that appears to show a framed picture of President Trump. The image was later reposted.
It has nothing to do with President Trump. If there are survivors in any of the photos, we will redact them.
The two sponsors of the law slammed at the DOJ Sunday for not releasing all files as the law requires by last Friday.
This was a slap in the face of survivors.
They're flouting the spirit and the letter of the law.
They're now working to rally support in the House for inherent contempt charges against Attorney General Pam Bondi. The law allows redactions in specific instances like protecting the identities of survivors. The DOJ also says it's working to remove some of the redactions. In the next 2 weeks, though, it'll have to explain to Congress what's being held back and why. Michael.
All right, Jarred Hill, thank you.